Hi, Steve Schlegel here. Thanks for sticking with me. We're on the 5th video of our 6 videos that look at our asset and liability protection for our LLC and our small business corporations. And in this one, we're going to take a look at minutes. I know it's not always the greatest and most fun topic, and it's confusing to a lot of people, but we're going to simplify it. All right, we need to take a few minutes for our minutes. First of all, what the heck are minutes anyway, and why do I care? Minutes are simply notes that you take, formal notes that you take and write down of discussions and decisions that you make, or confirmations of actions that you're about to take in your business. It's important that they be written down and that we maintain that record going forward for 2 reasons. First, it's written proof of what you decided and why you decided to do what you did. We want something in writing, because if you don't have something in writing and you get sued by another attorney, or the IRS is hanging you out to dry, and they are talking to you and saying, "Why'd you do that?" And now you're scrambling to make something up, and they know you're making stuff up, and you're going to lose. But if you go, "Let me just take a look here at our minutes," and you pull out that written record documenting what you did, then they know that you had a formal process for it, and it's going to be a lot harder to defeat you in that process. So having that written record is extremely important. The second big issue here is, for a lot of us, we're a small entity. And when I say small, I mean one owner and a spouse, owner and a friend, whatever. And in those businesses, how do we make decisions? Our tendency is to do whatever we want, whenever we want, and we don't take time to write it down. We have no records of what it was, because we're busy people. We're trying to take care of all the things to run our business and be successful, so we don't get around to it. Well, that becomes a problem when we're not doing that and we don't take the time to document. As I said a minute ago, the other attorney and the IRS know that you're a busy person, you're a small entity, so I know that you're not taking time to do it most often, and so I'm going after you. And that's why IRS really likes to target in lots of times on smaller businesses, because they know they don't have the record keeping to support what it is they're doing, whether it's compensation levels, distributions that you're taking out, use of company assets, and so forth. There's a lot of ways to get in trouble there. Now, a key issue is, aren't minutes required by the law? Are they required? And they're not technically required a lot of times, but good business practices say, I document it so that I can maintain my asset protection. So it's never an issue of whether the law requires you to keep minutes or not. It's a bigger issue of, I want to protect myself, so I'm going to follow good business practices and document what's going on in my life. Okay, so we get the idea. They're important to do, and I want you to have a way to look at it and do it that doesn't make it this terribly complicated thing that you're going, I don't want to do this, I'm not going to do this, I refuse to do this, because it's not good for your financial future. All right, so what are some of the things that a set of minutes is going to include? First of all, you can do minutes on a quarterly basis or an annual basis or an as-needed basis. I recommend that you do it quarterly. And the reason I recommend that you write this stuff down quarterly is 6 months or a year after the fact, you're not going to remember half the things you did and why. So it's important for us to do it more contemporaneously. So I recommend taking a look at it on a quarterly basis. Not that hard to do, and then there won't be that much that you need to put in there. So what are some of the things that are included in minutes? And I like to have a template that I use that I always start out with, and I go ahead and fill in each of the categories that are important to me. So you may develop your own template. You may look online to find a template that you can use, or you may end up just hiring someone else to take care of it for you, because you know in your heart that you're never going to get around to filling out the template either. And so I'm just saying, this is what I see. In doing this for 45 years, I've asked people to see their corporate minutes or the LLC minutes. I've worked with hundreds of small businesses, and I bet there hasn't been more than maybe 5 businesses over all those years that actually had their minutes in place and were well organized. And so don't feel bad if you haven't done it. but make a decision to protect your financial future. Okay? So one of the things we often have, especially in annual minutes, is we appoint who's going to be in charge for the next year. It's important that we designate that person, and I think we should designate that person every year. So in an LLC, that's defining who the manager or managers are going to be. And in a corporation, it's identifying the officers of the corporation. You can identify others as well, but those are the key roles, and we need to identify them each year. Second, we should always define what the compensation is going to be for those owner employees. Remember, when you're the owner and employee and you're in that business, the IRS wants to pick apart your compensation, your W-2s, versus your dividends or distributions. And so one of the best ways to do that is to make sure that you've got an employment agreement in place that defines what you're getting paid and what you're doing for that payment. So in your minutes, you would say, we're approving the employment agreement of John, and then you'd attach the employment agreement to the minutes. That's all. It's not that hard. And the employment agreement doesn't have to be a 55-page, highly documented document. It could be like 2 pages. Keep it simple. We want it as simple as possible. We're more likely to do it. Third thing I alluded to is distributions or dividends that we take out of our LLC or our corporation. The IRS says there should be some logic as to how you decided what was coming out there. You need to include in minutes. This is the logic. This is how much the distributions were. And then this is the logic for why I selected that amount. And it can't be because I decided to buy a new car. That's not a good reason. You know, when dividends are paid on, say, publicly traded stock like 3M, 3M doesn't contact you and say, hey, you want to buy a car or something? You need some extra money? No, there's a fixed formula and a methodology for doing that. IRS expects to see that same formality in your small LLC or small business corporation. Okay, so that justification is super important. If you had new partners come in or old partners go away, you want to make sure you've documented that in minutes and attached any transfer documents to show how that happened. If you have any significant independent contractor agreements, you ought to document those in your minutes, stating that you approve those particular documents and attach them as well. If you decided to change what the relationship is between the owners as far as how they share profits and losses, you want to be able to document that in the minutes as well. And then you remember 2 videos ago we talked about things like loans. If I loan the business money or I borrow money from the business, it should be documented with a promissory note. And so I need to make sure that I approve that in the minutes and then attach that documentation there. Likewise, leases. We want to make sure that we've documented that for leases. And if the leases are with owners, we want to make sure that we've attached a copy of that lease affirming the arrangement there. And we need to make sure we follow the terms of the lease. I've had a number of clients who will take and have the lease there, and it's $5,000 a month or whatever. And so one month they go, oh, we're a little tight, so we're just going to pay $3,000, and then next month it's $2,000, and then it's $5,000. You can't do that on a regular lease with a third party. You can't do it with a lease with yourself either. You need to follow the rules if you want the rules to follow you. We also confirm any employee benefit plans we have. Maybe you have health insurance or other types of benefits that you provide to people. If you're adopting a new plan or changing an old one, you should identify that in your minutes. Maybe you have an employee handbook. Well, you should document that and attach it to the minutes that you're confirming the employee handbook, that the people in the meeting have taken a look at it, they're good with it, and you've approved it. Or if you have changes to it, you want to do those things. Some people will include in their minutes the selection of a law firm or a CPA firm that's going to be doing their work for the next year. I don't think that's critically important, but I'm just letting you know, some people do that. There should be an approval of your financial statements. So if you're doing quarterly minutes, you'd be approving the quarterly financial statements. And that's an important thing because it shows to the world that you actually looked and you know what's in there. I can't tell you how many small business owners will you get to the end of the year and they haven't even seen a financial statement for the whole year. How do they know what's going on? How do they spot problems? What if an employee is embezzling? Is there a way to figure that out? And they don't know that. And if you don't know it, ask for help from your accountant. Help explain how these things work, and then approve them in your minutes. Other things you might approve are insurance contracts, licensing arrangements, whether they be business licenses or professional licenses that you've got. You're affirming that everything that was put into those agreements or into those applications and so forth is true and correct, and that you've looked at it. Multi-state issues are an important one to include in your minutes. A lot of companies work in multiple states, and many of them do it via online services. And you know probably that one of the biggest changes the last few years has been states trying to collect sales tax from you when you're doing business in multiple states. And you need to document how you've looked at that and how you've decided to address that issue and to deal with it. It's an extremely complicated issue, and you need to review that with your accountant and then have a logic for why you did it. So if you get in a fist fight with any particular state government, at least you have the logic recorded as to why did I do that. Okay, and a lot of people will put in the minutes the approval of large purchases. Maybe you purchase a significant vehicle or piece of equipment that you need in your business and so forth. Don't just buy it. I mean, you're the one making the decision, that's fine, but you still want to put it in the minutes. It's a formality, and so you just include it. It's not hard to do. So include it, make it part of that. Now, as I said, using this list as an example, I think you should look at it on a quarterly basis so you remember the things that you did. So if you do that, that's not going to be too hard to keep up with. Now, keeping track of minutes isn't rocket science. It's simple. It's a simple thing to do. If you've never done it before and you need help, then you want someone to help you do 1 years or 1 quarters, and then maybe you want to take it on yourself after that. Good for you. It's a good business practice to get it done. So if you think that you have the self-discipline to get it done on a regular basis, go for it. If you don't, you need to get somebody involved who will help you with that. Okay, and that's important to do because you want to have a simple way to make sure it gets done and be honest with yourself. And so if you're not going to get it done and you still feel, I really need to do this, because you do, you can find companies and groups that will help you with that. We help people that we work with. We have a service that you can sign up for where we'll do your quarterly meeting minutes. We send you a questionnaire once a quarter, and you just look through the questionnaire, you check the stuff off that applied to you, write some notes in there. If there's a relevant document, you could attach it. You just email it back, and then we go ahead and create your minutes for you, and you're done. And so now you've simplified that whole process. That's something that we do, and if you want more information on that, you can look down below the video here and see what that might entail. Otherwise, I think it's highly important that you take the initiative personally or get yourself a helper, whomever that may be. You may have an attorney or other person that can assist you with that, but get it done. It's critical. Take a few minutes for your minutes. Thanks for watching this video, and in the next one, we're going to wrap this all up with a few other things to keep track of. I appreciate you hanging in there and listening because I want to protect your financial future.